Almost good evening. You should have an agenda. If you didn't pick up one, there's some outside, and we will follow the agenda as outlined. And may we all stand for invocation and pledge of allegiance. Glasses, right? Let's see.
Will everyone bow their heads? Heavenly Father, we invite you to preside over this meeting and give us unity of spirit. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions to satisfy the needs that need to be met within our county. And as we discuss the affairs of this commission, we ask for your will to be done. We pray that you guide us always, direct our thoughts, words, decisions, and actions towards the right path. Let us be productive, effective, and decisive. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? I move for adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as received.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the agenda be adopted as received. Those in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? All right. The third thing on the agenda is our guidance for project presentations.
Sorry. Madam Chair, as presented in our previous meetings, there's 15 minutes for each project to be presented, followed by 5 minutes questioning and answers. Halfway through or so, we may decide to take a short break for a bathroom or just to be able to get up and walk around. The chairwoman will let us know when to do that. I encourage each of you commissioners to ask questions to the presenters. So if there's information that we need to gather to give you a better guidance for your scoring, we will do so and provide that to you. That's as far as I know. We will have 2 more meetings that will have the remaining 11 projects. There are 17 seeking inclusion for the referendum. At this point, the 17 total $45 million plus. We're still looking at maybe $30 million. So at this time, we don't have any more accurate number than about $30 million.
All right. Okay. As Ms. Brimmer said, we have 6 projects tonight, and the reason why they're not in any particular order is because we drew them out of a hat. We did not do them alphabetically. They were drawn. So our first project is Newberry County Courthouse. Our second project is Newberry County and Newberry Museum. The third, Newberry County Public Safety Complex. The fourth, Newberry County Mawson's Way improvement. The next is Town of Little Mountain Reunion and Park Amphitheater. And our last presentation for the night is Town of Prosperity. So we will begin with Newberry County Courthouse, IT Network Security Improvement. Mr. Irving West will be presenting.
All righty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be the first presenter, even though I'm doing the 2 smaller jobs. So, I'll go ahead and get started with the Newberry County Courthouse's IT network improvements. I'll ad-lib a little bit. I'm known to do that because I don't think this is in your book, but in case anybody doesn't know. And by the way, I've got Ms. Beth Folk, clerk to the court, with me tonight too, so she might chime in at any time. Courthouse was designed, built in the 20s. 1920s, they didn't know anything at all, or very, very few people knew anything about a computer. and network and IT and internet. They hadn't invented it yet, but anyway, it's come along. So as it's come along in the Newberry County, it's come along piecemeal, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. Since the courthouse was not designed originally for any of it, there was never any space for a server room or a network room. So the first guys that started building the network, they put it in a closet. All right, now I think I'm ready to go. Yes. So this is the closet in the judge's chamber. This is his chamber. In fact, you see his robe there. So first piece of switches was put in here. I do not have a picture of the basement, my bad. The basement, of all places, is where the fiber optic line comes in. That's the main feed for this whole courthouse, is a piece of fiber optic coming into a basement, and Beth can tell you guys real well that the basement has been known to flood. And that means it's full of moisture, humidity, and very little climate control. We have, over the past few years, tried to improve that situation a whole lot, but that's the first problem we're dealing with here, is we don't have a good entrance point. We come up out of the basement to this floor here. This is on the main floor of the judge's chamber, okay? And if you look, that's just nothing more than bifold closet doors. There you go. If you open up the bifold closet doors, this is about 2 foot deep. There's your first big switch gear that serves basically the main floor. So you can see that it's, even looking right there, and it's just a little closet. You're really standing outside the closet to do any work on it. You can see right next to it is one of the big electrical panels, not the big ones, but that's a sub panel. It takes up that much room. Then I'll go ahead a little bit further. You can see that's a closet, and closets are used for storage. Closets aren't really meant to put your IT and your network in. They're meant to go into server rooms, nice climate controlled, well protected servers room. But this is what we've got here. Now I'll go one more picture. Yeah, and see behind that, this is looking right behind the closet door now. There's another whole array of equipment on the back wall over there. You've got about 6 inches to squeeze through all of that conglomeration of wiring and switches to get back on the backside and work on that equipment. So that's just the beginning of the problem. I'm gonna go one more picture. That just shows you that the switches on that rack in that little closet are basically maxed out. All right, so the purpose of this project is to relocate all this existing network equipment out of these cramped closets and the damp basement to a climate-controlled IT room that will enhance efficiency and provide better access for maintenance, for troubleshooting, for cleaning, and most importantly, space for future services and expansion. The courthouse, Ms. Beth will tell you, the state is always mandating improvements. They're always mandating you do this or that. She just went through a big change with DSS, which was an improvement, and it made things a whole lot better working with the state through DSS. Now, it was a long process to get it all done and everything, and it actually ties back into our main server room for the whole county, which is over at Newberry Square. We've got it pretty well set up over there, but we come into this building and it's in pretty bad shape. Like I said, the existing conditions here, the fiber optic enters the building to primary routing switch located in the basement that has minimum climate control. We've worked on that pretty hard the last few years, but if you've been in any of the basements in the town of Newberry, they're all about the same. Damp, musky, that sort of thing. The primary switches are in a small cramped closet in the judge's chamber with other vendor equipment. There's more on the other side I can show you in just a minute. All equipment is very difficult to access for troubleshooting and maintenance. And when something does go wrong, we got to get in there. You can't even get to the backside of those switches. You're working them from the side. Ideally, a big switch rack like that, you should be able to walk all the way around it and check it out and do your work that you got to do. So it's all difficult to access for troubleshooting and maintenance, and all the switches are close to the maximum carrying capacity. There's really no space to put anything else in there. The secondary switches, we've got the same situation. Oh, I must not have those, Joe. The other ones, or do I need to keep going? It's okay. It's the same deal on the second floor. Second floor, same deal. It's up in the solicitor's office. I don't have the solicitor here, do I? No. So I can talk bad about the solicitor. No, the solicitor office, same way. That's where it's their offices, and you walk into their offices. It's almost a duplication of what you got on the main floor. It's another cramped closet with, too much stuff in it. Okay? So we've got all this network infrastructure cramped into 2 closets in 2 of the main offices areas for the courthouse operation. They shouldn't be here. Since the courthouse was built in 20 and we didn't even know the internet was coming along, there's only one current location for any future expansion, and that's up on the 3rd floor, the upper levels. It's an empty room. There's 2 empty rooms up there. We can take one or the other. They're up high. They're in dry condition. They're space in them. It's a place where we could come in and put new racks, new switches, and we would have to run wiring from all the existing stations throughout the whole building and run them back on all the way up to the 3rd floor, which is a lot of wiring, a lot of work there. We would also bring a new fiber optic line in from outside up to the 3rd floor. We would do away with what we've got in the basement is basically what it boils down to. And this area upstairs, I've got a picture of it too, I believe if it'll come around, will be climate controlled. It's high and dry, as they say. 3rd floor, you can't get much better than that. Besides that, it's out of everybody's way. It'll be locked and secured, which a network room ought to be. This one here is wide open to everybody working in those 2 offices and everything. I think you can see in your book now. So that's basically the gist of the project. It's pretty simple, even though it's a very detailed project. It's pretty simple. We're going to move everything from the basement and out of these cramped closets, and we're going to put them up on a nice dry spot up in the 3rd floor of the courthouse. Now, to do that is pretty detailed because Ms. Beth says we can't shut the courthouse down for a while. So what we will do is we'll come in there and we'll set up the 3rd floor with new racks, new switches, new wiring from all the different stations all throughout the whole courthouse. Get that set up and ready to go. Bring the new fiber optic feed in, get it hooked up, make sure we got good connectivity and everything. And then when that train, which I call the new train, we'll put it up, we'll get it running, we'll make sure it all works. And then when we've run through all the tests and everything like that, then we'll take the old train, as I call it, take it out of commission. Now we'll pull all of that stuff you're seeing there, all the switches, all the wiring and everything will come on out, and we can salvage a good bit of it. It'll be used for other things within the county. Okay, we all got need for switches, we got need for plenty of that Ethernet cable, so all that, most of that will not be trashed, it'll be salvaged. It'll be rolled up, and anytime we need a 100-foot length of Ethernet cable, we got it. You don't have to go get it or wait on it. You know how it is with the COVID supply chain now. If I wanted to get 100-foot totally crimped on each end Ethernet Cat 6, I'd have to wait 6 months. So that'll be an added benefit for the whole project in the years to come on. Because as Newberry County grows, your network's going to grow with it. Everybody that's got network IT stuff in their building, eventually they're all going to go through upgrades. It's just like your computer at home. It only lasts a few years and it's out of date, right? Yeah. All right, so the cost for this, the total cost is estimated at $295,000. Of course, now that's those of us that are trying to estimate nowadays, which is a hard task to do, this is estimated that this will be a project, if you, ladies and gentlemen, approve it and everything, and the voters approve it, that can start right off the bat. We can go ahead and do a lot of pre-planning. You can see in there, there'll be engineering, because there's going to have to be some really detailed drawings on what has to be done before the routers can get in there and start routing everything. We could go ahead and get the new racks, buy the new racks, and install them up on the third floor with the switch gears, buy them, and then, of course, the wiring. That might take a little bit of time to get, but it's, hopefully by that time, everybody's back in full production and everything. There's a lot of little odds and ends. I've got a line item in there for your termination hardware. And then you've got labor. You've got a lot of labor, okay? I don't have it actually broken down here because I wanted to keep it simple. That's part of that labor is going in there and after it's over and pulling all that stuff back out. You've got some civil work, which civil work in this case is structural work in the courthouse, because you're going to be drilling through walls and floors, making new spaces for all the wiring to run from where it is now on up to the third floor. So there's going to be drilling, putting in new conduit, sealing back up. Vendor cost is going to be all of our vendors, all of our IT contractors, the people that supply service to all of us. Just like I said, we just did the state with the DSS, so they'll be involved in it because they've got to set everything first, and the new switches and new racks, and make sure everything's working, and then do all the testing on it, and then after that, they'll come back and re-pull from the old stuff and everything. Got a line item in there for testing and commissioning. We want to make sure everything's working smooth, and that'll probably be, a couple, 3 weeks, maybe a month of just testing everything to make sure we got everything working before we turn off the old train. And you can see we put a contingency in there on this because there's so much detail involved, and there's so much that we can't even get to right now that, that's in there, contingency for all of that. Like I said, this has been put together over the years, piece by piece. A little bit here to start with, and that was years back, and then it's been added. And the guys that were doing it way back in, they didn't really have anything to work with. They just went with what they had and put things where they could to make it work. And that's basically it. It's, like I said, it's a simple job, moving the network up to the third floor.
All right.
So, okay, we'll take
through?
any questions on that if you got.
All right, we thank you, Mr.
All right.
West.
All right.
Anything else before?
I have a
I don't know if
question.
Beth wants to say anything, or if y'all got any questions.
I have one.
All right.
Is it, like, how long will the updates last? Like, it sounds like it's a long-term fix, not like a short-term fix. Is that correct? Like,
You
moving
mean
it to
if
the
we do
third
this?
floor right.
Oh, yeah, once we do this, it'll be a long-term, but of course, you understand that the computers, internet, network, and all that changes every day. So long-term, I'm gonna say you should be good for 10 more years. You've got plenty, where we're going is you have plenty of space. And that's what a lot of IT networking is about now. You add on, you just keep adding on. If you build it in to start with, and that's what we plan to. We plan to put enough large size conduit through the floors and through the walls that if you ever have to come back and run additional Ethernet or additional power or whatever, you'll have that already built in. So this will be a lot of this will be built in, and it's hard for me to say years, 10 years, 20 years, maybe 30 years. We did we took all the county servers out of the old ag building some years back and put it over at Newberry Square next to Piedmont Tech, and we've got plenty of space over there. We can, if you just say we replace or continue to grow by the train that we've got in there now, and I call them trains because it's like a choo-choo train going down the track supplying you with internet and everything else. We probably got enough space in there to do 5 more build-outs, which will last a good little while. You're running 100 megs into the county now, you could run 500 megs. And I know things are moving fast, but that's a big expansion. So that could take a big expansion. The courthouse could take a big expansion. The room that we have up there and what we'll build in, easily, once again, 3 to 5 more expansions on what she's got now. So that's a pretty good build out. I don't foresee that being full again for a good many years.
Where it's at now, like, do you run into issues with it? You said the moisture, does it cause issues with the connectivity or whatever?
We've helped that situation out, but at first it was, when I first got here and walked down into I said, where are we feeding from? Because the fiber optic right now is fed from the city fiber, and found out that it was coming into the basement. And I went down there to the basement, which is in a room behind the boiler and behind the, chiller. And you go in one room, and if you don't have your earplugs on, you get blasted out by the boiler and the chiller and everything else running. And then you go through this little door over here on the side, and you go into what is really a totally dark room. The light switch is over here, and then you turn it on, and you're in a basement room. It's where a long time ago the first phone lines and everything that came into the courthouse came in there. The old AT&T lines, and Karen can tell you about all of that and everything. That's where they are. I've got 2 walls of old phone line, just a real cluster that, it's very hard for anybody to see or tell what's old, abandoned, and some of them are still functioning. Karen can tell you that. We got a POTS line down there. Our 911 lines are running through there. But it seems like the courthouse back in the day was the central place for everything to come into. Out of the courthouse, we also feed the annex. Everybody in this building is fed from the courthouse. The treasurer and auditor is fed from the courthouse. And the ag building, the assessor's office, is fed from the courthouse. So the courthouse is a central hub for 3 other buildings.
Mr. West, you have here 30,000 for contingency.
Yes, ma'am.
And all of this is an estimate.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm asking is, could this project be done for less, since you've got 30,000 here in contingency and you don't know what kind of problems you're gonna run into?
That's
If
why we
none
always
at all.
that's why we always put a contingency in there, and I usually put a contingency in on a project anywhere from 10% to 30%. You can see right here with your total number 295, I think that contingency's in there 25%. If you strike that out, you'll get to 265. So it might be 15%. I have to go back. It's a formula built into that. If I was at my computer, I could tell you what it is. But that's what it's about. A lot of this contingency is into that civil work. There's only $20,000 in that civil work. This is an old building, and we're going to be doing drilling and knocking out walls and knocking holes in walls and that sort of stuff. That's part of it. That's a good part of it right there. A lot of it, once again, is the cost for switch gears going up every day. This is stuff that's made. All of this is made overseas, basically. So switchgear and even the wiring, we've only got one Ethernet wiring company in the whole nation making Ethernet wiring, and they're full speed 100%. Their cost is going up every day. Termination hardware, that's the small stuff, but still it's hard stuff to source. And like I said, all of this switchgear, hardware, wiring, it's all coming from overseas.
You have a lot of problems with the system as it is right now.
Yes, we do. And the problem is when we do have a problem, I don't say we have a lot of problems because I think things have improved a lot. We did have a lot of problems, but the thing about it is when we have problems now, it's hard to find them. It's hard to fix them.
Was
We
that
got
the
everything.
West Carolina, Tel? Didn't they do work at the courthouse?
Who?
West Carolina Tel?
Oh, WC Fiber?
That's right.
No, WC Fiber hasn't done any work for us at the courthouse yet.
Okay.
WC Fiber has done some work for the county, but it's been elsewhere. WC Fiber's working some of the other people that are housed around the county and everything. But, yeah, they're here in town. They've come in the last couple of years. And when we get ready to do this project, in other words, everybody's gonna vote yes for it right now. We would put a lot of this out for bid, and they would be one of the prospects to bid on the project.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are at our limit.
Oh, okay.
Mr. West, you've set the standard. You've set the standard. Being first is always the most difficult, and he has set the standard.
Oh, there you
So
go.
everybody else kind of knows how to
they'll-
follow.
They'll do better coming back.
You've done fine. Thank you, thank you. And thank the panel for your good questions. Okay, all right, we're good?
Well, I think I'm up next.
That's right, that's right.
I lucked out. I
You
get to do my
did, you
duty,
did,
and
you
I'm
you
gone.
did, you did, okay.
If you're
For-
ready.
For those of you who've come in late, this is the Newberry County and Newberry Museum roof replacement and HVAC improvements. And Mr. West, you're up next.
Okay. I have Mr. John Favors here with the museum.
Okay.
And there's Woody. I think good for Woody to show up and everything. So let me, yeah, okay, there's the museum. There's a picture of the museum. You've got all this in your books and everything. I just thought I'd bring that up there. If you don't know the history of the museum, I think most of y'all do. Back in the, well, I'll tell you what, I've got a picture that I'm gonna jump to if I can real quick. Just bear with me. I will, there you go. Back in 1911, that's what that MCMX1, I learned that in high school. That's whatever you call it, Latin or whatever it is, Roman numeral.
Roman numeral.
Building was designed James Knox Taylor. He was a supervising architect, 1911. Mr. McVeach was a treasurer at that time. So this building was built in 1911. Okay, and if you can look, that's a big old piece of granite right there that it's on. And let me go back now to the beginning here. And I'll get there. I think I'll leave it in that picture right there. All right, the purpose of this project is to remove all those existing clay tiles, which are cracked, leaking, been patched many times, and replace it with new similar clay tiles. Okay? Like I say, in 1911 is when those clay tiles were put in there. There's only been one little piece, to my knowledge, and what I've been able to find out from the history of the building, that has been replaced, and that's just to the right, to the left side of the chimney there, if you're looking at it. So going back to 1911, 1920s and everything, this was the U.S. Post Office. That's what it was designed for. In fact, we have, Woody, I think, still has the original blueprint drawings. These are old-timey hand drawings on blue paper. You don't see that too often anymore. Everything now done by Revit, and it's spit out real fast. These were labor-intensive drawings. At one time, and when they first started, the heat was supplied by a boiler down in the basement, and air conditioning was basically what you call open air and fans. Post office held it for a good little while. I think after they moved out, it was vacant for a while. I'm not exactly sure when Newberry County Library moved in. But when I got here, the library, we were already getting ready to build a new library. I walked into here, and they had buckets all around the whole library from the leaks, the roof leaking and everything, especially around the chimney there. The old building like this will move, so it is separated from the chimney. The first little thing you see right here in the front, that's the new elevator, but the chimney's what's in the back. So anyway, to fix that leak, we had to pull some clay tiles off of that area, and we did about a 3-foot wide area because you could see daylight from the chimney. You could have a gap that big. The water was just pouring in. They had buckets lined up left and right when it rained. So we pulled those clay tiles out and redecked that part of it. And that is a special clay tile, and to get it to fit back in place to match all the existing clay tiles, we had to do a special order from foundry up in Indiana. We tracked them down and found that we got a pallet special made, because they didn't make them anymore. And they said, we can fix you up, and we did that and got that repaired. And then, as you go on, we gutted that out, got the library out of there, moved them out, and building was vacant for a while, and then we now have the museum housing. So we still had the middle part of the roof leaked, and we had to replace it with a TPO. It was leaking pretty bad. I'll get to that picture, I think, right here and just show you that. There it is. Up on the top, that's the flat part. And that was basically deteriorated. And we redecked it, put insulation on it, and put the TPO membrane on it to stop the leaks. It had already gone all the way through and was just basically rotting out the hardwood floor, which was original 1911, 1912 hardwood chestnut flooring on that main floor, which you can see now if you go in the museum. It's for the most part been refurbished, refinished, and some pieces of it had to be replaced. So we did that, and then since the museum's moved in, we have experienced leaks, and we've been up there multiple times patching them. The last repair we did, if you can see the different colors, the last piece that we did was over here on the back side. You can see it's a little redder than the orange on the other side. That was leaking pretty bad over the mezzanine, and Woody and John can tell you both, if you've been in the museum, that's where they got a lot of nice displays up there. So it was coming straight in and doing damage to the displays, doing damage to the flooring, and on all the way on down. So that is basically a silicone sealer. That's a Band-Aid over the clay tile. I'm going to show you some clay tile now here. I think I've got them here. Do I have them? I don't think I can get to that one. That other group, I don't think I can get to that with the close-ups? Okay. You've got them. They just got put in your book. They were pictures that weren't put in your book originally, but they're close-ups of damaged clay tile. You can see a lot of them that are cracked. You got them in there, Karen? Yeah, I can.
We got it.
I can show you. Yeah, that.
Yeah, this is it.
That's just some holes and damage there.
Okay.
This is crack. This is typical. That's clay tile that's staining it, and it's cracked. It's cracked all the way through. Water's getting through there. Water's getting through there. Okay. And then you can look at the other clay tile. You can see how at the ends a lot of them are chipped. Rainwater, when the wind's blowing, it's blowing underneath these clay tiles. All right, so anyway, back to where we are at the library. You've been experiencing filtration for some time, creating other problems beyond just a roof leak. And like you said, 1911 is when it was done, so that makes the remaining clay tiles that are up there, makes them 110 years old, thereabouts. Get back to that one. Okay, that you can see on that picture to the right, this side of the shaft there's still damage over on this side. And you can see the discoloration on the other sides. Most of that is cracked tile. They're cracked. They're already letting water in, and they're changing color. Like I said, what you got up there now, for the most part, all those clay tiles are 110 years old. Clay tiles are the way to go if you can afford it. They'll last forever. And like I said, that one's a good 110 years old. But they're worn, they're cracked, they're dislodged, and they're creating other leaks in other areas, and they'll continue to do so. They're not going to get any better until major repair or replacement occurs. Like I said, the museum has already incurred several leaks and incurred several costs for repairing the areas of infiltration since we moved in. We had to do that fix there. That fixes a membrane. It's got a 5-year warranty on it, so that's a 5-year Band-Aid. We did it, 2 years ago? So it'll start eroding in a few more years. Beyond that is the internal gutter areas. If you notice the white pieces of separation right toward the end of the roof, And I've got a picture of that too, I think, maybe not, it's in my close-ups. But you can see that the internal gutter area is 100 years old. It's been, an attempt has been made sometime in the past to reline that because they had leaks in it pretty bad. But it needs to be totally redone. I guess it was a good design feature at the time, but what it's doing is that internal gutter area is right over your interior of the building. So if you get a leak in there, you're getting a leak in the building automatically. And in the downspouts, if you notice this building, and it's for the aesthetics and the beauty of it, there's no downspouts. You know, there's no gutters, it's all inside, so all that piping's inside. You don't see it, you don't see the downspouts. You got your house, if you got gutters on your house, you know where the downspouts are. Well, they're all hidden here for aesthetics, but they do create problems. The internal gutters always need cleaning out at least twice a year. If you don't get them cleaned out, they're gonna stop up, back up, and then you're gonna have more leaks. All right, the new work's gonna consist of removing all of the clay tiles. We'll take them all off, okay? And I guess it'll be left up to the museum or whoever. They can decide what they want to do with the clay tiles. Once again, I'm a recycling guy, so 110-year-old clay tiles, is it any good for anything? Maybe for some historical value. You might want to do a fundraiser and sell them for $10 a piece. Good price? $100 a piece, whatever. The decking repairs, there's going to be some decking repairs. We knew that when we were doing the renovation from the inside. There's going to be some decking, but you couldn't do that work until, like I said, you take off all the clay tile. So I put in the budget some money for decking. All right, a new ice and water shield membrane will be installed to further ensure water tightness over that whole decking. Back then, they didn't just like computers and everything, ice and water shield or a watertight membrane, they didn't know that existed. And then eventually we got to tar paper and some other things, but we've evolved now with building science that we can really seal off a pretty good a roof pretty good right time you get it decked. They're building houses around me and everything, and what happens is they get them decked out and they put ice and water shield on there, and it might be 6 months later before they ever come put shingles on it because they're busy building houses, doing houses somewhere else. But that'll be put on there, and the middle part's got to be reworked because it goes with it. It all ties in together. That's not a very costly item though, because all you got to do is just rip off that TPO membrane and put a new one back down. Your insulation and your decking's already built into that part of it. All right, the internal gutters will have to be reworked, okay, and provide proper drainage and new membrane and flashing installed. And the plan at the time is to start running exterior downspouts, get the water from out of the inside of the building. You do all that, get a new clay tile roof on it, you're probably looking at, like you were asking, what's the time frame for that amount of money spent? I'm gonna say another 100 years. You can go all over the world and see clay tiles that are 100 years old on all the old buildings. And if you look at the pictures for Europe and Italy, all those old buildings, they're sporting minimum 80-year clay tile, 100, 110, 120. The thing to do it is once it starts getting some age, just get on up there then and do some maintenance on it. Start sealing, taking care of your cracks and that sort of stuff. The other part of the project is the HVAC improvements. Okay, this is inside. This is taking care of all the displays and all the historical old items that are in the museum now. With the new system and with the museum in and operating now, there's two issues that's come up. One is there's a higher humidity beyond museum standards, especially in the summertime. Old books, old stuff, old clothes, all that, just doesn't do well with high humidity. The other part of that is the hot air, or the air is rising up into that ceiling. That's all open ceiling up there. And it just traps the air and it gets hot. But then what happens if hot air always rises, cold air always goes down. So in the wintertime, you got the cold at the ground level where everybody is, and all the heat's way up top where nobody is. So that's the two items we're trying to resolve here. For number one, the engineer, the equipment supplier, and the contractor have worked on multiple setting changes and some parts changes throughout the last year or two, trying to improve the situation, but we've got no real improvement on that, okay? The proposed course of action is to install some large dehumidifiers, which we put small dehumidifiers in a lot of our buildings elsewhere, and they work. They'll pull the humidity out. Okay, we're gonna put the dehumidifiers in. We're gonna tie them into the main system, that being the main ductwork system, and one's gonna be high up in the rafters, up in the top. The other one's gonna be down in the basement, damp basement again. That's generating humidity too. So this item will help assist in the humidity removal without overcooling the space with air conditioning. In other words, turning that AC down as far as it'll go down, trying to get things in. That doesn't work. You got to get rid of the humidity to make the air conditioning work right. That's problem number one. Number two is for the hot air rising to the ceiling. The plan there is put in a high-velocity fan and a wall chase that'll be installed up on the roof where all the hot air is, and basically what we're doing is we're blowing it down to the floor. It'll go all the way down to the main floor, and then it'll work its way down to the basement. That's just improving your air circulation. That's what that's doing. So with these two modifications, it should decrease the humidity, and it'll improve the airflow, which will ease the load on the HVAC units, because they're working hard now, about 100% of the time. It'll improve the lifespan of the units, okay? And then once you do that, you're going to save some money on your operating costs. I had a budget. Let's see, I think I got it here. Yeah.
You've got 1 minute.
I've got one. So for the roof work, total on that as it is right now is $770,000. Okay. This is something that you can't get anybody to give you an estimate on right now. Nobody, in other words, if you get a roofer, they're gonna say, well, when are you gonna do the job? Well, we don't know yet, but if it does get approved, it goes around, it'll be, a year and a half or something like that. Well, I can't give you an estimate, or I can give you a good budget estimate, and they're gonna bump it up. So that's what we've got here. We're looking to the future is what I'm saying. And you can see all the line items in there. We've got the architect engineering work, because we'll want drawings created, because it'll go out for bid. We'll have testing for, don't think there's much hazardous material up there, but we'll be testing it. Then we got some bidding, and you got your steps basically, or remove your old material and do whatever you're gonna do with it. Hate to see it all get hauled off and dumped in the dump, but that's yet to be determined. Repair decking, I put in about a 25% of the whole roof area is an estimate. I've seen a fair amount of it from down below, and I know there's some that's gotta be replaced, so that's only 25%. There's your ice and water membrane. In other words, you can put that on there and you'll be watertight for 6 months or longer just with that. And then you gutter flasher and reworking your gutters, all your internal gutters. And then your big item is your new clay tile roof. Now, the one good thing about this is you don't have to go back and match that existing interlocking clay tile. They've got clay, they make clay tile now that is a standard clay tile. This was definitely a high dollar, exceptional clay tile that Mr. Taylor and them designed way back when. They wanted it to last for a while. And it all interlocks to keep it all from sliding down or moving it sideways and that sort of stuff. The new TPO on the roof up there, that'll be just added more protection. We do all this work, we're gonna flood test it, we're gonna probably vacuum test it from down below. So I put in a line item there for a tested company. They do this kind of work. Come in and give us that 100-year storm testing to make sure that the contractor has done a good job at what we're watertight. When we walk, before we do the final payment, we walk away from it, we got verification that we're good.
Mr. West, you've gone over your 15, if you can wrap it up.
Right. So that's your cost for your roof. Your HVAC work is some engineering work, which is a lot of it's already been done. Your bidding work, you got your parts removal, there'll be some removal parts to put in. The new insulation is the new material, that's your new exhaust fans and your new dehumidifiers. And once again, once you get it going, you'll do a test and balance. You'll run the units, you'll make sure that you're getting the right humidity out of them, and everything's balanced out before you say, okay, we're good to go. That comes in right about $45,000.
Okay,
Total cost right now, $815,000.
all right, okay.
All right, did I use all my time then?
I said
All right,
you set the
I'm
standard,
done.
and now you,
I got a question.
questions? Anybody have any questions?
How many times has the museum flooded since it became a museum?
How many times has the museum had leaks? We really haven't flooded because we've done pretty good on doing that. We have had floods, I'll take that back. 3 significance. 3, were all 3 of those insurance claims? We've already done 3 insurance claims. We flooded the elevator, and that was a big issue. The elevator was out of whack.
Maintained building, being a county-maintained building that houses both the college and the county museum, what kind of damage did we have to the artifacts?
So far, no damage to the artifacts. We were able to jump on it pretty quick. Irvin and the folks from Serpro came in and did a great job, and not only got rid of the water, the damage mainly was drywall to the elevator shaft, to the elevator itself. It damaged some of the wiring. All that had to be replaced as well. But no damage to the artifacts yet.
Okay, question. Once the roof is replaced, will that not help with the AC cost?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So could you do this project just for the roof,
Without the AC.
without the AC?
That's gonna help.
It won't address the problem with the humidity buildup and the inadequate airflow.
The problem with this building is it's all granite and brick and a basement, and the walls and the windows, there's not an ounce of insulation in the building. The only thing, we have put insulation up in the attic when we did the renovation. And that's R30. Basically, what that's doing now is holding some of the hot area. It's keeping it a little bit airtight up there. But the rest of the building, from the roof down, is uninsulated. We've got that problem on all of our buildings. We've got, all the old buildings built way back in those days, even into the 60s, very little insulation. I can go over a lot of buildings that need a lot of insulation, but the way they were built back then, you just didn't put them in.
And is this the only place where you can get these clay tiles? I mean, have you searched around to see if you can find them cheaper
Oh,
somewhere else?
we will, yeah, we will. I know there's several people here in the United States that are still making clay tiles. And we found these in Indiana. I can't think of the name of the company right now, but they're still making 2 types of clay tiles, so they would be a definite candidate. And yeah, it would be a competitive bid process.
How many bids were used to listen?
Sir?
How many bids were used to listen?
Well, what will happen is Crystal will put them out, put the whole project out for bid after we get the specs and the drawings and everything done. She'll put it out for bid on the state site, on our site, Newberry County website, but she'll put it out on Skibo. And once again, it's only a select few roofers that do clay tile.
So this 280, that could change?
Ma'am?
The cost of the clay tile roof, that could change when you bid it out?
That could.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Thank you, Mr. West. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're at 6:22, so if you're looking on your schedule, we're 2 minutes behind. But public safety is next, and we have presenting for Newberry County Public Safety Complex, Friendly Fire relocation, we have Mr. Tommy Long, Newberry County Public Safety Director, Daniel Works, raise your hand, Daniel. There you are. Daniel Works, Chief of Friendly Fire Station, and Chris Johnson, Chief of Newberry Rescue.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Long, we're
Thank you.
ready when you are.
First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for taking time to listen to our project. We're going to all three do our best to try to explain to you our objectives here. I'm going to give you the Newberry Emergency Management and Emergency Services perspective. Mr. Works will be giving you the Friendly Fire perspective, and Mr. Johnson will be giving you the Rescue Squad perspective. And then we'll go over the designs and cost options toward the end of the presentation. This map is a population map. The yellow colored portion is Friendly's coverage area. They do not have primary response to the city area, so their population is about 7,050 population-wise for their coverage area. This is the Rescue Squad, which they do cover the city of Newberry, and their population is approximately 24,207. They got a very large area that they cover as a rescue response. They'll go into more detail when they get to their presentation part of the program. This is the old fairgrounds. Most of y'all probably can look at that and tell. We have a new burn building at the very back of the property there on the right side, and there's a carport to the left of the red top where we keep some DHEC trailers under it. Our project is planned to put a new fire rescue emergency management training facility up at the front part of the property, and we got some more pictures later in the program here that we'll show you kind of how it would look. From the emergency management perspective, we want to provide a training room that will also serve as a backup EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and if the need arises where we're over capacity at our current EOC. Provide a full commercial kitchen so we would be able to provide meals during training and EOC operations, be it a natural disaster, man-made disasters, etc. Provide bunk rooms for fire rescue and EOC staff during activations to allow for the personnel to rest between shifts, as well as for our fire and rescue personnel to staff stations. And our ability to add full-time staff and emergency services continue to grow over time. We need a plan for the future, have a place for those individuals to be able to rest and have a place for them to have a station where it can accommodate them. Okay, Mr. Works, I'm going to let you do your part.
Friendly Fire Department was established in 1962. Most of you are aware where we are now, right here downtown on Harrington Street, just across Nance. We are the busiest fire station in the county. We have been for years. Right now, we're averaging 180 to 200, slightly over 200 calls the last few years. We're very restricted by the size of where we are now. Many stations in the county with volunteers being harder and harder to get. We can't get any of the new size tankers, which basically would double the water capacity to cut down from 2 drivers to 1 driver due to size restrictions we have now. Also, your visual image of the fire station now where it's sitting, that's what most of your visitors to the county are looking at as your county volunteer fire station, and we'll look at some pictures here in a minute. As you can see, it's very tight. This is where we are now with 3 trucks in the bay. That's from the front. This is your sides. In the middle picture, you see the wall. Can't even hardly get around it. So time is of the essence, and we got to sit there and struggle to get around equipment and get out the door. Seconds usually matter. The middle picture, that's on the back wall, butted up to the ice machine. Just some more photos down the center of the other side of the building. Which what that does is prevent us, like I said, getting new trucks, and if we got a new one, the county's gonna have to custom order it to get it to fit in that station, which when you start looking at cost and custom ordering and lead time to get it, it just gets to be a snowball effect. Right now, we got 23 members, and you see what our office / training room / computer area to do reports and officers area to do all the paperwork that's required. 23 people around that one table and standing against the walls get very tight. During COVID, we canceled some meetings. We've had to move them. We've had to reoperate, and it's just time that we need a little more space. This is the exterior from the rear and the Nance Street. If you're heading out of town, I would say towards Dixie Bypass. This is the image you're getting. A lot of those upgrades we've kind of done ourselves, but you still see where we're at now. Why do we need a new fire station with a new location? The downtown corridor, traffic purposes, when they have events, the city, they work the events, they know what streets are closed, what barricades. We don't. We're coming in volunteers. We've got to be able to get there, to turn around and get back out. So if we're trying to finagle around town in traffic, it just gets to be a headache. This new station wouldn't benefit just us at the fire department. It would benefit the rescue squad, the Newberry County Hazmat, which currently doesn't have a home, the backup EOC, and the training grounds, which you can see there. 11 county fire departments could use the training area, 7 rescue squads, hazmat, city fire, and EMS. What does it do with the low number of volunteers, moving forward? It will boost morale. When you try to bring a guy in and get him to sign up, and you squeeze him in a room elbow to elbow, it's hard to make him feel warm and fuzzy, that we got room for him to join. When we want to have guest speakers, we try to do a lot of interactive training with partnerships and different industries, things like that. It's hard to get them in there and do a presentation. Station repairs, new roof work is going to happen in the upcoming years. Somewhere around $25,000 is what I'm being told. They just did a patch on it a year or two ago. I think Mr. West has left. And the concrete out front, we got a cone there. If anybody's drove by it, don't try to get close to it or you're going to be buying a tire. The rebar is coming up through the concrete. We got an estimate 2 weeks ago, and it's about $10,000 to $12,000 that's going to have to be done pretty soon if something doesn't change. There it is right there, which not only affects our tires but also county taxpayers' tires on those trucks. In closing, it's really an urgent need for us. As you can see, I was in a meeting with an attorney, and he asked me, he pulled up all the responding agencies, and he looked at me and said, "Is our fire station really coming out of a metal barn?" That kind of puts me in an awkward situation, and that's the eye that your industries that we're promoting to bring in, they look into things like this. What's their fire staff and where they're coming from? What can they provide? So it just doesn't stop at the residents. There's people looking at it that you don't think would be digging into it as much as they are. And then you got a valuable location where we are now. What the county decides to do with it, that would be them. But it's a valuable area. The current issues, disruption to the hotel, local businesses. If the outdoor theater is constructed there, it's going to create parking issues for us because they're going to want to park in the grass around it. We're going to have to try to rope it off. We deal with it now when the city has big events. The Eclipse was one of them. So it just causes a lot of issues. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Good evening. My name's Chris Johnson. I'm chief of the rescue squad. I did mention we cover the city, a large order of the county, and probably 75–80% of the interstate. So our call volume is extremely large. And while the station that we're in is somewhat newer, unfortunately, when we moved into that station due to cuts, we had already outgrown it before we moved in. You'll be able to see from some of the pictures that I'll show you that'll reference that. One of the issues that we have, as well as that you'll see in the pictures, is proper storage of our medical supplies. We're bound by regulations from DHEC as well as LLR, fire code and whatnot. And unfortunately, right now our medical supply closet is in the only supply closet, which is also where the switch panel is and everything else. And so I unfortunately was put into the position that I had to decide to either violate fire code or violate LLR regulations. And so right now we're violating fire code. And that's just unfortunately the position that we were put into, because the legal ramifications from violating an LLR regulation are much more significant. And again, we are volunteers. Unfortunately, I cannot sign up to be put in jail for violating an LLR regulation or the hefty fines that would come with that. The other benefit to the new station would be increased response times. Several of our members are here. They have a habit of staffing our station late in the evenings, on the weekends. You can open up the cabinets in our meeting room and there are board games, deck of cards. They come down, they eat pizza, watch TV, and we play games and then we run calls. Just during the last snowstorm, I personally slept on a army cot and we played Monopoly till 2 o'clock in the morning, standing by for calls, being staffed, versus, again, as a volunteer department, during a snowstorm is not the time to try and drive to the station to answer a call. And so they volunteered their time to be at the station, away from family, and being ready to answer those calls. Again, recruitment and retention, just like Chief Wirt said, having a station that they're not crammed into, that they feel like they can work out of and be proud of, will increase our recruitment and retention. It also goes toward our training opportunities. Having a training room here in the county, the last 2 EMTs that we sent to training for 240-something hours of training, volunteer on their time, they had to go out of county to get that training. One went to North Carolina on the weekends, and one traveled to Greenwood and back in their personal vehicle, paying their own gas money to become an EMT to volunteer for our county, because we did not have an appropriate place to be able to host this training. With the new training room built into the station, we plan to hopefully host emergency medical responder training as well as these EMT classes, so that helps, increase our ability to recruit members. We can provide you the training and we can keep you closer to home. It's a lot of hours already, but asking them to have to spend a lot more time driving to these training classes, that's more time away from family or more time away from work. And so, we would like to be able to provide that opportunity. The other side is economic development. Economic development is obviously a big thing for the county, and public safety is a direct, involvement into economic development. A lot of times it's all about bringing in the industry, but we never plan for the effect that has on public safety. And so having a newer station, a bigger station that can host the bigger tankers, that can, adequately host the equipment that we have and the training to keep up with the, requirements on the volunteers to be able to answer the calls that these industries and residents will play a large part as well. Again, just showing you, we moved into the station. This is all equipment that we had at that time, and that's what we were at the day we moved in. That's not growth. That's just what we had when we moved in the first day. That is our storage closet, as I was telling you, that has to be under lock and key, and you see how crowded that is just with the basic stuff that has to stay maintained. Another image of that. This is the outside, and I'm going to skip through to the main picture. The way this station was built, it was run asphalt all the way up to the bay doors, and so with the amount of call volume that we have and those heavy trucks coming out, you can see how it's already pitted the asphalt. And so you actually have to get a running start to get the trucks back in the station to get them even over that little bit of a ledge. And then again, you're already coming into tight quarters. So this is the back of the station. Again, the station was cut to the size that we ended up having to point a vehicle out the back. So in order to get our ambulance back in, it requires a 3-point turn just to get back in from a call every time it comes back. We mentioned hazmat, and just real quick, we've already met with the hazmat department who does not have a station. They have part of their equipment stored in Stony Hill. The other half of it's at, I think, one of the city fire departments, and they may have equipment somewhere else. But every time they run a call, they're picking between 2 and possibly 3 locations to go get their equipment. That chief and assistant chief have already been over and viewed our station. Should we be allowed to build this station, we would move in with Friendly and hazmat is gonna move into this station, they would be able to have all of their equipment in one place. And so again, you would actually be benefiting at minimum directly 3 departments with a new station, should this, project make the list. All right, and then you wanna do the design? All right. We all got together with Alliance, and this was the initial design that we came up with the parking lot and just the station. Unfortunately, no one anticipated the cost that would come in. It came in at 9.5 million. So we sat back down with Alliance and cut all the areas that we felt like we could cut to get the station down to a reasonable price figure, but also still be functional and not be in the same position that we were in, moving in a station that we were already outgrown. And so we went back, deleted the parking lot, reduced the bays by 10 foot? Yes, sir. 10 foot on each side of the bays, depth-wise, and I think we moved the station closer toward the road to decrease the concrete cost. And that, we were able to reduce the cost 1.75 million down to a total cost, including contingency, of 7.75 million.
This is a picture of the changed one or the
Yes, ma'am,
original?
this is the change, this is the most recent one with what we felt like were the maximum amount of cuts that we can make and still have a functional station.
And you said it's like, would have places to sleep and all that
Yes,
kind
ma'am,
of
this would
stuff.
have bunk rooms.
What about exercise equipment?
Yes, ma'am, we hope. That is a goal for us, but unfortunately, we do not know how much area we're gonna have until we can meet with an architect. That is definitely one of the things that's on our bucket list that we sent over to Alliance. Hey, these are our kind of wishes, and an exercise room because of
Let's bump that one up.
Yes, ma'am. That's what we all,
Remove the rest.
that was on the list for all of us.
It's pretty important.
So, we're mandated to take physicals every year and pass those physicals to be able to be interior structural firefighters. I fight fire on the side as well, volunteer. And so, putting that requirement on these members, I think we have a burden to make that available to them to help them stay in shape. Because the gym memberships are not cheap. I pay for mine out of pocket right now, and it is not a cheap adventure.
Something I wanted to ask Daniel, as far as when he was talking about the size of the trucks, does that affect the ISO rating as far as insurance, not being able to get larger trucks or anything like that?
It will if they start timing us on water shuttle and, how many people you got. 'Cause like I said, to get the same amount of water, it's gonna take 2 trucks and 2 drivers versus 1 truck and 1 driver. So all that's into the timed equation, and it will start affecting you.
Cutting the 10-foot, making the 10-foot smaller, would that still allow you to get the right tankers that you need?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can still make that work. We
Now,
just
some
we can't squeeze it in.
Yeah.
We cut before we got here, and that's kinda, we don't wanna be in the situation they were in before. When they moved in, it was already too small. That now is really where it needs to stay size-wise.
Okay. And I see in your second drawing here where you're gonna go over that, where you, I guess that's where you drop the rescue squad out of it.
That was an option that they had come up with, but we, as a group, decided we don't want to go with that option. This is the option we're going to go with.
So
Because that
we
would
just
meet our
ignore this.
overall
So you
need.
just do option 1 and not option 2.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
In line with what the Samsung attorney asked you, do you really respond from Friendly instead of from Wilson Road or from Nant Street?
That's
the city.
Both of those stations, and Samsung's in the county. So right now, you got Friendly comes, St. Phillips comes, and Prosperity comes to
Well, you've
anything out
educated me.
there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The city would not respond to the.
They responded to tower truck if we need a tower
If we
truck.
have an active fire, they send the tower truck, that the county's got some investment on that. But as far as primary response, you get anything out 219, Monsoon, Recast, Prosperity, Friendly, and St. Phillips.
Well, you've educated me. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
Now, we know in the near future, we're going to have to probably hire some full-time positions in the county. That's definitely on our radar. That's across the country how it's going. So that's why in this station, we're planning to have bunk rooms and things of that nature to plan for that when it does come about. Because that would be one of the first stations that would need to be man with personnel as we move into that.
And there certainly are a lot of fire stations at Belfast, on Bush River Road,
Yes, sir.
also
And-
on, next to I-26.
Yes, sir. And the reason why you see a bunch of fire stations, you got to be within 5 miles drive, road miles, not by the crow fly, to receive ISO credit for whatever that station's rated at. So that's why you see a lot of fire stations.
And then all voluntary.
And they're all volunteer. Everything in the county is volunteer. The only paid services in the city of Newberry. Now, we assist the city and they assist us on a lot of calls, but as primary out the door, they're primary at the industrial park. Same with the industrial park down at 773. Prosperity and Primary and Little Mountain's primary to that industrial park, all volunteer.
Chris, when did you all move into place out there on Adelaide, the rescue building?
Chief, I want to say it was during the penny tax 2 times ago, so I'm thinking 2007, 2010 timeframe.
But it was too small when you moved
Yes,
it.
ma'am, it was too small when we moved in then. We were made to cut it to a point that it was not really functional, but we've made do.
And as far as what you're looking to do now, what do you think as far as lifespan on this before it might be
So-
too small?
Well,
I just will hold it going forward.
the way this was designed, if the need should come to make Admiral Bays, you can, because they're gonna be on the outside of the building, you can split. But I don't foresee us, needing more bays in the future.
The way we've got it designed now, it would move my ambulance to where it can run out the front. And should we grow to a point that we needed a secondary ambulance, I think you would see us putting it at one of the substations somewhere and not necessarily at that station. If we did, you know, again, we could stack them so that one ambulance would run the first call and then the second would run the second call. So there would be a little bit of room for growth there, that I think would be okay.
Just for y'all's information too, they're not the EMS service for the county. They are volunteer. They do the same thing as EMS. They got the same training. They are toned at the same time EMS to respond to calls as well. So the main ambulance service in the county is Newberry EMS. However, we tone both at the same time. So if they happen to be at the station, they may get to the call before EMS can actually get there. So I kind of wanted to explain that side too, because it works similar like on the fire side, you know, with the way we respond.
And Rex, unfortunately, with the uptick in violence in the city, you know, we've transported more than one patient from shooting scenes or from wreck scenes. And so you need that second ambulance, responding anyway, so that has been a plus.
You spoke about the plan for the rescue squad. What is the county's plan for Friendly Fire Department? What would they do with that parcel of land?
Okay, that could be, a truck could be left down there to have it as a substation, or that land could be sold. It depends on what the county council decides they want to do with that particular product. How big acres is that?
I think it's close to 2.
About 2 acres. They could look at possibly selling that lot.
Okay. And your stance is all the 4-bay fire and 4-bay rescue
Correct,
or none?
correct.
Okay.
And like I said, there may be room for us to cut after we actually get a architect to kind of see how our spaces work out, but at this point, we don't really know without having an architect to help us develop that, see what we can and can't, you know, cut.
And all of this is new structure.
It is
That-
all new.
That fairground area, that's gonna remain there? All of those
In
buildings?
our plan, it will be taking that first barn down and the shed up front down, unless we, you know, unless they decide they don't want us to take those down, then we can shift it to the right of that property.
And who owns that? The county
All
owns the
that's owned by the
fairground?
county.
Okay.
So let me go back to the picture. So we could actually shift this over to the right, where the storm drain, we could actually shift this over to the right if the county decides they don't want us to absolutely tear the barns down. There's still plenty of space there. The county owns all that land you see with the grassy area to the left and behind and over to the right where the trees are. And that's actually 14 Newberry Rescue over there to the right side of the picture. So that land goes all the way to the Dixie Drive corner.
If that station shifted though, I'm sure we'd have to go back for Alliance, but you would see an increase in the cost because you're gonna have to build that property up because right now it sits down below the road level. Where we've got it designed right now is level and would be a straight shoot onto the roadway. So if it does get moved, you will see an increase in the cost that would have to be taken up.
Yeah, we tried to take the easiest route out as far as having to do any groundwork, and there is a pretty large contingency in this project, as y'all see on your sheet you got there. We hope it comes under that budget significantly, but with it being this far out, we can't really say how crazy as prices are going these days.
But that's, to answer the question as far as option two, if you look at the price difference, you would never in 5 years be able to come back and do it for that while you're building the main. When you start doing remodel, it's just like the courthouse deal, it's gonna cost you 5 times as much. So for no more difference than that is, we feel like do it all at one time, and that's gonna get the best money deal. And also part of it is we have joint members. So when you start trying to divide who's gonna get the new, who's gonna have to stay in the old, and we got to stand there and work side by side, part of that morale deal is just kind of, we feel everybody needs to go together.
And what happens to 14?
That's where Newberry County Hazmat would go.
That's hazmat.
Right.
You did say that, okay.
And bear in mind, each fire department, rescue squad, law enforcement, any emergency responders will be able to utilize this training room that's gonna be inside this building as well. So it's gonna definitely benefit more than just the fire and rescue squads.
Does hosting trainings bring any money? Like, do people from the outside have to pay to do trainings, or no?
We are actually working on, since this is gonna be our training ground, working on a plan to possibly let industries come in and do training and so forth. We haven't got that far yet, but we're looking at possibly doing that to help us with utility costs and things of that nature.
Is there any federal money, a grant that you can get to help with this here?
I'm not saying we can't put in for grants, but there's no guarantee. I can't make a guarantee that you will get a grant. Our departments are always putting in for grants, but they're so competitive, and we can't guarantee we could get a grant, but it's something we could try for.
Most of the grants that I've applied for have all been equipment-based, not construction.
Most of the FEMA grants are more for the equipment side versus the buildings.
Okay. Any other questions?
How will that affect y'all if that's a county facility? When you have a fire department or a city fire department?
This is a county fire department.
County.
Okay.
And if y'all would like a copy of this PowerPoint, we can get that to you, but it will not let me email it since there's so many pictures and so forth.
They can use the training ground portion, is why the city was looking at the fire department, all this will be county.
Yeah, the city and the county use this as a training facility. It's kind of been a combined project to get the burn building put in place. So it's utilized by all of the emergency responders in the county, not just fire, not just rescue. Law enforcement's use it for active shooter training in the burn building. You can use it for active shooter training in different scenarios. SLED has come in and done some training with law enforcement. So we got a lot of opportunity to build this training grounds out to do a lot more than what it's already doing for us.
Okay. We thank you.
Thank y'all
Don't
for
overtime.
your time.
Okay, before we move to the next one, just want to poll the group. Does anyone need to take a break before we move on?
Water.
A request for water.
I may have,
Do you have any bottled water?
I have some, but they're not cold.
Okay.
You're welcome to it, it's just not cold.
I'm fine.
So no one, move on? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep moving. All right, we're down to our next project. We have Newberry County Mawson's Way Improvement and Extension. Mr. Rick Farmer from the Newberry County Economic Development will be presenting to us. And we're starting at 6:51, 15 minutes. But if it goes over a little bit, we understand if we've got some good pertinent questions.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Again, I am Rick Farmer. My primary role is to advise the county administrator on economic development issues.
Mawson's Way improvements and extension. We originally had these as two projects. They were folded in together as we moved along. The primary purpose of these, of course, is to increase traffic and commerce flows within the Newberry County Industrial Park and to increase public safety for all of the people who populate that park. This image just shows the two different segments of this. The road you see there in yellow is the existing roadway. This roadway was built approximately 25 years ago, and that's the part that needs to be improved. The red part is a rough approximation of what we consider Mawson's Way extension. Of course, these two roads and these two projects would come together and create a second entrance to the industrial park, and we'll talk just a little bit about why that's a good thing. But this of course, is the Newberry County Industrial Park at the intersection of SC 219 and Interstate 26. Now, why are the, excuse me. Why are the improvements to this road needed? Well, first of all, again, this road is about 25 years old, and I know of no significant improvements that have been made to this road during its lifespan. It is, quite frankly, at the end of its lifespan, and it's in pretty rough shape. I encourage and welcome anyone to go out there and physically inspect the road. The road's in bad shape. I got a couple of pictures coming up that'll show you. And one of the ways we routinely deal, we've learned that after a big heavy period of rain, 2 or 3 days of good solid rain, potholes will appear in this road. And I have to lean on the Public Works Department to go out and fix these potholes. But we're really just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. The problem is that water has a long time under the road, and so every time we have this problem, we have these new potholes occur. We actually first started looking into improving the existing road about 5 years ago. It was as we were working to recruit Samsung. And we knew that there were a lot of big things that we would need to do in order to host this company, and one of those would be able to improve that road, because even then, it was getting towards the end of its lifespan. Park population out there has tripled since Samsung landed in May of 2017. This road's used by over 2,200 employees per day of the various industries in this park. That does not include the 235 to 250 employees at Komatsu, because they have a dedicated entrance to their facility. And we do expect more growth. I can't talk in specifics, but we anticipate more growth in the Newberry County Industrial Park.
Thank you.
These are some relative close-ups of part of the worst parts of the road. The image on the left there shows that it basically looks like when a creek bed dries up and it cracks up. The one to the right is a little bit wider out, but this is towards the end of the road between Samsung and Komatsu, which of course is where the vast majority of this heavy truck traffic is focused every single day. This is the budget for the improvements. It's a $1.6 million budget. We did do a study in 2017 to get a handle on this and get an idea of what it would cost to fix. One of the things that we determined back then was this was not simply a resurfacing project. There are certain segments of this road that will need to be completely dug up and built back up from the base layer. It's gotten that bad in certain locations. We anticipate this portion of the project would be about $1.6 million. Now, let's focus on the extension, which is, of course, the new road that we've been talking about. Again, back to the population increase in the industrial park. There are about 2,000 employees at Samsung every day, and we have about 2,500 total people who use that park. Truck traffic has also more than doubled with the addition of Samsung trucks. one of the big benefits of this is that Komatsu employees specifically, again, they have a dedicated entrance exit on SC 219. When they leave that facility, of course, it's only controlled by a stop sign. When they leave that facility, many of them have to turn left. Well, they're turning left into a hill, so there are blind spots. And if people are following, the speed limit, it shouldn't be a big issue. But if somebody comes over that hill doing 70 miles an hour, it could be pretty dangerous. This is a public safety matter that Komatsu has recognized, that we've discussed. We've worked with the DOT in the past to find remedies, but we've not been able to find one that was satisfactory to both Samsung and the SC Department of Transportation. So the Mawson's Way extension and the new entrance would create a much safer ingress-egress for those Komatsu employees specifically, but for all of the people who use this industrial park on a daily basis, especially those who plan to turn left and head back to the city. Currently, they leave at the entrance of Mawson's Way, which is near the interstate. We've tried to get a traffic signal at that location in the past. The State Department of Transportation tells us it's just too close to the interstate. It's not allowed by their newer protocols. We do plan to do our best to add a traffic signal when we build the new entrance exit, which will make life a lot safer for people leaving the industrial park. There's also an economic development benefit to this. There is some land that would border on this new road, and it would basically open up 3 new sites to economic development in that park. So we're looking forward to that. Another benefit is that perhaps Samsung, for instance, could make this a truck entrance. So now they've segregated their employee traffic from the truck traffic, and getting those trucks off of the original road and moving them to the new road could have public safety benefits as well. Here's some estimates on vehicle movements within the park. Again, if you work at one of these industries and you arrive at work one day, that's one movement, and then when you leave work, that's another movement. So the average employee car will have 2 movements per day. But we see that there's well more than 4,000 vehicle movements in this park each day. On a road that's about a half a mile in length. So there's a lot of traffic on this road every day, and adding the new road would, at least in theory, have that. Now, some people are still going to continue to use the original road as opposed to the new road, but it will cut down on the amount of traffic on either particular segment. So we do anticipate the vehicle movements. They have basically doubled, and we anticipate more growth in the future, so there will be even more vehicle movements as we move forward. This is the conceptual layout of this that shows the 2 different segments, and it shows how the Mawson's Way extension would be constructed. One important thing to realize is that this would need to be done in 2 distinct phases. The first phase being the construction of the new road. What that does is that allows us, once the road is constructed, it allows us to divert traffic from the old road onto the new road while we repair and improve the existing road. Some of the industries there will need to continue to use the road, so there is money in the budget for flag operation and single lane traffic. So this is something we've been working on since 2019, the addition of this new road, and but we just haven't been able to pull it off for reasons of costs. This is the budget for the extension. Now, I did provide you with the maps of the concept and also the 2 particular budgets. So what you have in your packets are the same thing that is on the screen now. This is about a $2.8 million project, which is rather significant, but this is an important road. And all lumped together, this is $4.4 million worth of projects. Now, I do see that the county has reduced the total ask for the Mawson's Way extension from 2.8 million down to down to $400,000. I do have a verbal commitment from the State Department of Commerce's grant coordinator to offer $2.5 million for this project. Now, a verbal commitment is not a written commitment, and I'm a little nervous that the money's been taken out, but I will do my absolute best to claim that money so that we can put that towards this project, and you can use that CPST money for something else. That concludes my presentation, Madam Chair. I would be glad to field any questions.
Okay. Questions?
You have the commitment from the state in writing.
No, sir, it's a verbal commitment, but I did hold a second teleconference a couple of weeks ago where I had witnesses in the room who also heard this, so I'm not the only one who has heard this verbal commitment from the state to offer $2.5 million.
So you're talking about 1.8 million for the extension as well as a repayment?
I believe the total is well, the $1.6 million for the improvement, that stays static. But then the Mawson's Way extension went from 2.8 million down to 400,000. So I'm not exactly sure why that $100,000 variance, but there will be other costs that are not in that budget that I'm concerned about. For instance, one of the things I'm attempting to do is to convince the property owners to donate their property to this cause, because they all stand to benefit from these roads and these improvements. I don't have written approvals, written agreements on those things, but one cost I know that we're going to have to bear is that Komatsu is going to have to move its guard shack from one area to a new area to accommodate the outflow of traffic on the new road, and we're likely going to have to pay for the movement of that guard shack. Now, they are working on an estimate for me, and that should be under $100,000, but we will see in the very near future.
Is it possible to do the extension without the improvement?
The improvements need to be done regardless of what, how this fares on the capital project sales tax. And the reason we haven't done the improvements is, quite frankly, is because it was a big ticket item and the county has had other priorities. You could separate these out, but the improvements need to be done. There's no doubt about that.
And you said there are 3 property owners.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
happens if one doesn't agree?
The county can, and nobody wants to do this, but the county has the authority under eminent domain to take property. Now, I probably shouldn't use that word take. To acquire property for projects that are in the public good, the most common of which are infrastructure projects. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to do that, and I don't believe that we will have to do that. If that's the case, then the county's going to have to pay fair market value for the property they take. Luckily, we're not talking about a considerable amount of property. I believe from the largest landowner, you're looking at about 8 acres. From Komatsu, you're looking at like 4. So we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 acres total for all of this new roadway.
And these 3 property owners, they, I don't know how quite to ask this, but why aren't they doing this?
Excuse me?
Why aren't they making this road if it's beneficial to them? Why
Well,
is the county
because
picking up this
it's a
cost?
public road. And generally speaking, private companies don't build public roads.
Okay.
This is identified as a need by the public sector body, Newberry County. Now, and of course, these guys do build on their own properties all the time, but this is a new road that would not only benefit the companies, but all of their employees and potentially economic development in Newberry County. But and also bear in mind that all of these companies already pay taxes to Newberry County. Samsung pays $1 million a year, for instance. So they are sharing in public infrastructure costs across the county.
Any other questions? We thank you, Mr. Farr.
Thank you, ma'am.
Righty. Next, we have the Town of Little Mountain Reunion Park Amphitheater, Mayor Giroux. We're ready when you are.
Thank you.
And it's 7:08, and you have 15 minutes.
All right, thank
Okay.
you. And thank you for the introduction. I am Jana Giroux, the mayor of Little Mountain. I'm going to discuss a park project. The town of Little Mountain paid for a park plan in 2019. The poster I put in front of you shows the plan, different segments. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the number 4 on here. This section over there. If you're familiar with the town of Little Mountain or the Reunion Park, this is the school, the elementary school. And then across the street, Mill Street, is our Reunion Park, which is a large park. We would like to build an amphitheater on 3 lots that the town owns. We purchased the lots about 5 years ago. We have been slowly trying to clear them to get ready for some type of, we're hoping for the amphitheater, for some type of construction to add to our park. Every year we have until COVID, we had the Little Mountain Reunion in Reunion Park, which is, I don't know if you've been to the festival, but it's, the moment it's Friday night and all day Saturday. It's the last one we had before COVID, we counted a little over 3,500 people there throughout the day. Not all at once, but throughout the day. The amphitheater would give us an opportunity to have a place to have certain groups, acts, graduations, which right now we have graduations, particularly for the elementary school, in the park. And this would give us a place for seating, a place to have more formal programs, and it would give us a chance to have ticketed events. We felt that the big push to allow us to have a ticketed event would be we could generate income, which would provide money for maintenance. Budgets, grants, very few of those actually include maintenance. Most people, most towns, once you build it, maintenance is something you have to come with on your own. So we are trying to come up with different ways to maintain the park and keep it going, and we felt that the amphitheater would provide us with that. We also would like to have a spot in the lower end of Newberry County for tourism activities. We have felt that tourism has greatly increased in our area. A lot of it is the runoff from the lake. A lot of it is growth from the Chapin area. Chapin is 5 miles away from us. We feel that the amphitheater would be so very positive for our community and for the county, mostly because of the tourism and the opportunity to have different events brought to that area of the county. When we started this in 2019, the budget was at $1,073,000, and now after some discussions with Alliance, we're looking at $1,925,000, which is not quite twice the amount, but it's close. That includes building the amphitheater. It includes demolition and clearing. It includes sidewalks. It includes bathrooms, electrical, and structures and fencing for the entire project. We're hoping that this will be picked, and again, it's on property that the town owns. We would not have to purchase anything except build the amphitheater itself. It would be grass for seating, not cement. We felt that that would be more conducive to any water or runoff problems because it's on a natural bank the site is a natural bank in our park. So we were worried about too much runoff if we had a lot of cement and concrete, so we went with the grassy seating. We felt that that would not only look very nice, but it would help also with the maintenance and with any water flow problems. We will have a stage. The stage will have a roof, have ADA compliant bathrooms attached to it on the back. We already have a road that goes close to there, and we felt that we could use what is already there for roadways. We will have to extend our electrical that we have in the park, and we will have to extend our sewer. But it is all close by, it's not that far. We think that this would be a great opportunity, not only for the town, but as I said, for the whole county. And that's about all I have. Do y'all have any questions?
What other events other than the one you discussed would you be using this facility for?
Well, we have, right now we rent the park to different, you can rent it for a fee depending on which part of the park you want. We do have 3 or 4 entities that rent the entire park. We had a barbecue contest cook-off there 2 weeks ago, I think, that the Mid-Carolina high school football team had. They rented the entire park for that. They had, I think, 9 food trucks in the park. It brought a lot of people to that area. There's Quail and Dove Club that is renting it in May for the same type of thing with a barbecue cook-off. It brings a lot of people in. We have people from as far away as the other side of Columbia who wish to rent our park. So the park is used a lot, and after COVID, even more. We have birthday parties, family reunions down there. It is rented almost every weekend when the weather's nice. We even had, during COVID, a lot of rentals in January and February.
How many events do you think that you will have in a calendar year?
We would like to see if we could have 4 or 5 a year by the town, and then rent the amphitheater for other things such as graduations, or if other groups would like to use them for money-making ticketed events. We would offer it to the Opera House if they wanted to do a satellite show or event down there. We would offer it to the high schools.
What's in that spot right now?
Trees. It is when we bought the lots, they were very full of trees, and it's a natural fall. We have removed some of the trees to get a better look at the land and how it, and what type of topography is actually there. But right now, it's still some trees and shrubs and nothing there at the moment. And as I said, we purchased the land, we own the land. It would not be a cost with that.
Okay. Any other questions? Where's the parking that's closest to the amphitheater?
Number 4.
Would it be?
The amphitheater is
4?
This is a road right here that goes by.
This is a highway coming through Little Mountain.
This is off the highway.
Okay.
It's off Mill Street.
Middle Street, yeah.
Which is, I don't know if you know where the elementary school is. It's
Yes.
off the street, yes, sir, from the elementary school. There's parking in the elementary school. There's parking along this road.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, and last but certainly not least for tonight, we've got 2 more nights. We've got Prosperity Well Rehab and Water Tank Construction. And we have presenting Mayor Derek Underwood and Karen Livingston, the town administrator. I think she's just gonna sit in the back and give you cues.
She's my wingman.
Okay. All right, we're ready when you are.
Thank you, Ms. Chairlady, Tolan, and the rest of the committee. Thank you so much for letting us come here and present for this. I think earlier tonight, Mr. Wertz asked for a bottle of water, and a lot of times we take it for granted that water is going to be provided to us at our beckoning call. And sometimes it does. Sometimes our only choice is whether or not it's cold enough or it's available to us. But one thing that I want to bring up with our town, I'll pass out the PowerPoint afterwards, but a lot of times when you pass it out, everybody flips through it ahead of time, so I want to just go over it in person. Next slide. So why is sustainable water supply important? Now, we got some information off the web, but just to kind of give a little background. Aquifers are always tapped into municipalities, counties, water companies. They tap into these. These are a replenishable resource. It's not like the aquifer, once you tap into it, it runs out. They're replenished through rain. They're replenished anytime we use water our gardens or whatnot. It seeps back at town and gradually makes its way back into our aquifers, filtered, clean, ready to use. To find reliable and resilient approaches to various human needs for water, you have to look for them. You have to find them. We're blessed to have 3 sources in our town. And those 3 sources were used in the past, but they have been closed now by EPA and the health department because we couldn't bring them up to a certain level that's required now to ensure that the folks who are drinking the water have a safe supply. So anytime you talk about, anytime you talk about, am I supposed to be controlling it? You got it? I'm not sure what that's going to do. No, you're good, but am I controlling it or you can do it? I guess it's working, you're doing it. So water is the core for everything. I want to go do next. Push the button.
You're fine.
Water is the core of sustainable development for anything. Any type of development, either commercial, residential, fire protection, anything, emergency management, everything, water is the key to all of that. So just to go into a little more details, next. For emergency preparedness, why do we need a water tower? National disasters, floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes. You know, we hear all the time about earthquakes happening. I think we had about 12 right down in another county. We felt it here in Newberry. You don't think much about earthquakes or hurricanes or floods, but that can disrupt the supply of water. We have a great relationship with Newberry County Water and Sewer. We're their customers, but we also are partners in this. So in no way should this be taken as us trying to have a complete availability of water on our own. We just need to have another resource, another avenue. If your local or supplied water source becomes polluted or contaminated, if something happens, something we can't control, and it becomes contaminated, we have something to provide to our customers. If we have frozen pipes, a broken water main, there's all sorts of things that could happen to create a local emergency, not just at the county level, but locally. Our goal is to be able to maintain consistent water service, but also to maintain it at a consistent pressure. Maintain an emergency storage supply. And if we have a disaster, we have an issue, and the supply gets cut off, how do we maintain fire protection? How do we maintain water supply for our consumers and our industry and our businesses? Provide pressure during power outages. That might affect some of the areas. And provide equalized volume to meet the peak demands. So if we have a major fire or something, we have to do it. We need to make sure that we have a sustainable and a pressurized water system. And then the next one. Rate protection. This is the one that our customers like to hear about. We purchase 100% of our water now. Prosperity purchases 100% of the water that we use for fire protection in town. So in the past, we used to get 40% of our water that we used in town through municipal sources. Those are the 3 wells that I mentioned. And I mentioned that EPA and DHEC shut those down and did not allow us to do that unless we had those refit and had a way to transport that to a storage location. Water costs has increased anywhere between 3 and 15% yearly since 2016. Our friends with Newberry County Water and Sewer Authority, when they have a cost that goes up, they pass that along to us as a customer. Cost to produce water is significantly less than purchasing it. That's a big thing for us to remember now, because when we purchase water, it's going to cost us less to generate our own water as opposed to purchasing that. And by doing so, that's going to give us a return on investment. And how big is the return on investment? Is it within 5 years or 10 years? No. It's gonna be a little bit longer down the line, but it still allows us as a town to provide, a sustainable, clean, and sufficient water source for our 800 customers, but we have 1,300 residents. So 1,300 residents is what we're looking at to be able to provide this for. Just had a meeting with a company, a developer, which is to put 200-plus homes inside the municipality of Prosperity. That's a big deal. When you hear about all the houses coming on 773 in Macedonian Church, about the influx of residential places in the county, you know, what does that mean for our providers, Newberry County Water and Sewer? What does it mean for the city of Newberry? What does it mean for the town of Prosperity? It means that within the next 1 or 2 years, we're gonna have to be able to meet that demand. And how do you meet that demand? You purchase it from the person providing it to you, or you're able to sustain yourself by going in and refitting those 3 wells. Growth in our business district. I have to be more proud now to see the businesses downtown Prosperity start to open their doors. We've had a lot of closed buildings, and those are starting to open up, and that's actually causing a lot more demand too. Fire protection in the business district. When you move to Prosperity, how do you pay your taxes and your insurance rate? They're based on having a volunteer fire department right behind you, having fire hydrants located in strategic locations, and being able to provide that deliverability in case there's a catastrophic fire downtown. Outside suppliers, also see the growth in the next few years. Like I mentioned, Newberry County Water and Sewer is going to have to do 500-plus new county homes that are in the making now down Macedonia, Greenville Road, and some others in 773. So we have a obligation to our 1,300 residents to make sure that they have a sustained water source at a legitimate cost and a cost that is stable. So our presentation today, you have the engineering drawings from Alliance Engineer. We have the locations of the place we intend to place this. The total cost for this project is $4.5 million and some change. I just want to do round numbers. The location is already properties that are owned by Prosperity. And when you think about the water tower we're talking about, it's not the water tower that you see on Backman Chapel that stands, I don't even know how high, it's 50 feet, 100 feet up in the air. It's more like the one that the Crossroads Road, Stony Hill. It's above ground, but it's not going to be at the height that you would see. Annually, the town pays about $250,000, $248,000 for water that we use, and we revenue about $285,000. So it's pretty much a revenue neutral. Generally, when we talk about adding, doing repairs, having to do tap fees and things of that nature, it's revenue neutral. We don't really make anything on our water. By doing this with the town and gathering 40% of our water from our own wells, that would be a 40% annual savings of $114,000. That amount would go directly to rate stabilization for our customers, but also some of it's going to have to go towards maintenance of the water tank and the wells and whatnot, which will be between $12,000 and $16,000 annually. So we'll still have a good estimate annual saving for our customers, and for us to be able to maintain those wells, and plus being self-sufficient in case there's something else that goes on. Having a fire department that doesn't rely on a water source from out of the town. And we just think this is a win-win situation for everyone. Could the town afford this without a capital project sales tax? Absolutely not. Could we afford it now because this is something that we can pay for as a county and that will benefit not only us but also the county protection. So the last one is consumer protection. The EPA requires community water systems to deliver a consumer confidence report. We get that already from the county water provider. It's also known as the annual drinking report. Town of Prosperity citizens will be provided clean drinking water treated and maintained by the town on top of the water that we already have provided us by Newberry County Water and Sewer. And the town citizens will enjoy great stabilization through less purchased water from outside authorities. That's it I have for my presentation. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer. And if I don't know the answer, I will get back to you with that answer, because that's always the bad thing. You try to make up an answer, you don't have to do it.
Do you have the breakdown of the cost?
No, it doesn't.
Y'all have a
Yeah, I
breakdown
don't
of
have a
costs?
breakdown of the costs for that one. I
never
see
did.
all the parks.
It's right behind it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I missed that too.
okay.
We missed it.
It's right in front of all.
There are two
It
within
just
that
doesn't look
tab.
like those.
All right.
Okay,
It's two within the tab.
okay. Stop looking.
It's about halfway through that.
Back this way?
I printed these out, I can email them to you. I'll only kill a couple trees. We're talking about water, not trees.
There it is, okay. Yeah.
The others
I
look so
stopped looking.
different.
I know, I stopped looking.
Yeah, the cost breakdown again,
Okay.
that was through the engineers through the
Okay.
county. And, that's always the high end. Here's an example of what the. I can get your name. Again, we
Is
have
there a
this in
location
past-
map in here where you're gonna put it?
What's that?
Do we have a location map in here where you plan on
We
putting
do
it?
not have the location yet. We're
Oh,
trying to-
okay, all right.
because we have several areas that we can place this.
Okay.
And we just gotta make sure that it's feasible and most cost efficient. We wanna, keep it more in the hub of town, so we can funnel out, but if it's not feasible, we'll have to go outside. We did the high end on the estimate.
Okay.
If you talk about a giant water tower up high, that's inside the town limits. We wanna make sure that we can keep the one that I showed you that actually will allow us to perform all the things that we need to.
Say 400, you're talking about $4 million, the return on that is 112,000 a year.
That's just for us, just the
But,
revenue.
but the ROI is not there.
Return on investment is there for 20 years.
For how many years?
20,
Most of the time it's on 5 years.
and we're a municipality, we're doing what's gonna be best for the town and, not the near future, but also for our kids and their kids.
Only other question I have, what do you do if the aquifer goes dry?
What's that?
If the aquifer that you drill into goes dry?
Well, we've had it for 50 years and it's not gonna dry. The studies that we've done said it's a replenishable source, it's not gonna go dry.
But don't you purchase 100% of your water?
Now,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't quite understand, if you purchase 100%, what guarantee that if you drill and have your own water system, it would not go dry?
we've had we use 40% of our municipal water came from those aquifers for 20 plus years. The health department and EPA said that we can't maintain that level now. They shut those down on us. Those aquifers are not going dry.
Sure. Thank you.
That's what.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, we have heard all of our presentations for tonight. Now we're down to public comments. Did anybody sign up? All right, we're down to number 6, questions, comments from any of our commission members. Anybody have any questions or comments? We're good? Okay.
I just want to thank all the presenters. Y'all did a wonderful job. Thank you for the information.
All right. Karen?
Just to make sure, our next meeting will be Monday on the 11th at 5:30. We have 6 projects that will be presented. You have the information that we have at this moment. If there's future information that comes in, I will email it or deliver it to you. If you're missing anything in your book, you realize that something's missing, you'll let us know. We'll make sure you get a copy of that as well.
No further questions? Do I have a motion for adjournment? We are adjourned.